Alright, time to talk about a fan's favorite, not the Gujarats, but the Japanese. Japanese are one of the favorite civilizations of many players because of their uniqueness, their civilizations, the samurai. But here's the deal, Japanese are really a good civilization, and obviously they do have a very interesting economical bonuses. All of their buildings such as lumber camp, mining camp and mill, all of their economical buildings do have a 50% discount. This means that you only pay 50 wood for lumber camps, 50 wood for mills and 50 wood for mining camps, and that will always give you like at least a 100 wood saving during the dark age. Not only that, but that will keep up during all the game, so every time you do invest into like a new lumber camp you are having this discount, so the potential for the discounts that you have as this civilization is are pretty much infinite. The other good thing that Japanese do have here on the early stages of the game is that their infantry attacks 33% starting on feudal age, which obviously doesn't mean that you can only play on feudal age. You can already start and open with like militias, like you can see on this game, harass your opponent, and only later after you do click to the feudal age with a very good economical setup thanks to your cheaper buildings, you can then proceed to go for the men at arms. I think that the biggest power spike that the Japanese have here is the early feudal age, in my personal opinion, and the reason here is quite simple. With Japanese you can actually go for massive amount of militias. With this massive amount of militias you can upgrade to men at arms, and once you have like 3 or 4 men at arms you basically can bypass enemy defenses here. The only way to actually fight against this unit is actually going for walls. Honestly, I would not recommend you to try to fight this 33% faster attacking infantry from the Japanese hand to hand. These units were made here to win the fights here. So before 13 minutes, I do not see a Japanese player losing a fight badly. Of course, you do not want to engage with like 2 units against 3 or 4. You actually want to engage in equal numbers. Another thing that can actually be done to counter the Japanese is walling off. So a player can actually keep making walls and repairing his walls until he has enough of a power to fight against the Japanese. In that case, in that scenario, the best thing you can do is to add archers to your composition. So not only you do have all the power from the men-at-arms, but you also have archers that can punish villagers that are trying to build and repair on the back line. So that's basically the way to play with the Japanese. Let's take a look on a small fight here. Andy is pressuring with a lot of men-at-arms, he's on the hill, he's also using archers. As you can see, Lewis doesn't want to give him his position, so he's getting ready to fight, and Lewis does engage with 4 cavalry units and a lot of villagers that are joining the fight. Well, the Japanese player just goes back, just keep using his archers, dealing damage to the weak scouts, and of course you can add some spearmen to your army composition in case you need to fight against the scouts. And as you can see, this is actually a nightmare. So this is basically how you want to play with the Japanese early game, going for heavy infantry here and also archers. This is actually the best one. You can obviously play with scouts, you can obviously play with archer opening, but the biggest power spike from the Japanese is actually going for the infantry. So if you do manage to use that on your composition, you can kill enemy army, you can kill enemy buildings, you can force idle time, you can force your opponent out of some important resource, making it very hard to deal with. Your opponent is actually going to have to mass quite a few ranged units in order to fight against that. And of course you can actually use a mix of archers and skirmishers. You can just use like a few archers to kill the views and then switch back to skirmishers that are actually supposed to counter enemy archers. If your opponent open archers, do not even lose so many time making archers and already transition into skirmishers to use as a counter. And that's basically the Japanese game. Meanwhile, it's just a matter of developing your economy and already preparing to play during the castle age. My advice is that you always should analyze the situation in order to choose your unit. But if I did had to pick one single unit from the Japanese to play during the castle age, I'd say that I'd pick the Cav Archer. Not only because it scales pretty well into the Imperial Age, having access to all the upgrades, even Parking Tactics and Tumbling, but it also does have a 2 attack bonus versus ranged soldiers with the exception of skirmisher. So this means that your Cav Archers can even fight back against other units such as the crossbowmen. So basically that's how I suggest you to play with the Japanese civilization. With that said, once you want to go for the castle age, you can still play with crossbowmen, elite skirmisher, you can obviously go for all the infantry line, and during the castle age, guys, knights, light cavalry and all the knight line is still pretty good option. Of course, you do not want to scale so much into the horses because you do lack essential upgrades such as the +4 armor, making your cavalry to decay a bit during the Imperial Age, where you should actually be using the other unique stuff from the Japanese, which is basically infantry, ranged units, and obviously their unique stuff like Asama towers, Kataparuto traps, or even the elite samurai. But we're actually going to talk about these later on this video. Alright, but let's see a scenario where the Japanese truly shines. I think that Japanese are actually very decent and honestly are very difficult to play against on hybrid maps. On a pure water maps, there are better civilizations that can have a good amount of synergy on their bonuses. On land maps, there are also other civilizations with some crazy bonus that can surpass the Japanese, so they are never going to be the first pick. But if you pick like a hybrid map, often players will either ban or even pick Japanese. There are very few a set of civilizations that can have such a power spike on the early stages of the game, such as the Japanese. So let me explain why this happens and give you some examples. For example, Japanese will actually have this cheaper lumber camp, which will then allow the Japanese player to afford a faster dock. So compared to a regular civilization, this 15 wood saving allow the Japanese player to drop his dock faster. But there is more to it than the eyes might allow you to see. The thing is, the Japanese also have crazy good fishing ships, and that scales pretty well. On hybrid maps, for example, in this one that was played here on the Titans League called Cross, a version of the ranked map 4 lakes, there were like multiple lakes here with a lot of fish. So if a Japanese player get to hold one of these, he would actually have a very good economy. So if he was able to just make his just get all of that for free, this would be insanely good. Not only that, but his fishing ships would also scale, getting +5, 10, 15, and even 20% work rate. So this means that the Japanese eco could be a lot better, not only because of their wood bonus here, which would provide some saving, but also because of the fast working fishing ships. So combine those two and you have a great scenario for the Japanese to play. But there is even more to it. On those hybrid maps, for example Cross, walling is not that simple, and for this reason very often you are actually going to see players going for man-at-arm openings. And well, we already saw that if you go for a man-at-arm opening as the Japanese, you are on very good shoes, because that's exactly where the civilization truly shines. If you want to melt buildings, there is one trick here that is pretty decent, which is going for like 4 men-at-arms, upgrading it then, and also going for the arson upgrade. Going for the arson as the Japanese, giving +2 attack combined with your 33% faster attacking, means that even if the opponent has 2 villagers repairing a building like a house, you are still going to take it down. So it's a pretty scary thing to deal with. For this reason, I believe that the Japanese are properly designed here to play hybrid maps, and that's exactly the situation where they shine the most. So basically going for excellent fishing ship, men-at-arms, and then switching back to archers, and then you just have what exactly you want to play as the Japanese. On this map also you can invest into multiple buildings like mining camps, extra lumber camps, later go for the mill, and all of these being cheaper helps a lot. So Japanese is one of the best civilizations for this kind of map, and often you are going to see the civilization either banned or getting prioritized into tournaments. So this is probably the best case scenario for the Japanese. If you do like the Japanese, this is exactly what you want to do. Just my 2 cents on this game. I think that antagonist was just lacking arson. I think that with arson here, he would have taken down most of the enemy buildings here a lot faster, because right here, as you can see, even with 3 villagers repairing, his opponent is struggling to hold. But if you had arson, this would be like a nearly impossible task. If you can actually follow that up with more men-at-arms, this can actually be pretty decent. And also, not only men-at-arms, but actually archers are pretty good. The men-at-arms can be used to take down the buildings, and the archers can just be used at a safe distance to try and take down the villagers that are trying to repair that. After that, you just play a regular game, as we just were talking about in the previous Japanese one. The game can go really well for the Japanese, but one thing that can surely change everything is making a castle, because the Japanese unique technologies can define how they will play Imperial Age, and they are very good. So basically, Japanese have access to two unique technologies here, the Silver Crown and the Golden Crown, and we are about to talk about those. First one, let's talk about the Silver Crown. Silver Crown is called Yasama. Basically, Yasama it costs 300 wood and 300 food, and it allows your watchtower line to fire additional arrows. So your watchtowers, guard towers, and keep towers are actually going to fire extra projectiles, and this is very powerful. You can just have like mini castles if you get all the upgrades done for your towers. So Yasama is a big part here because you can just keep to yourself key positions of the map without having to invest into castles. When you go for a big hill, you can just drop a castle because you have somewhere that you want to protect, but maybe sometimes you actually want to add some kind of defenses here, and you cannot just place like 4, 5, 6 castles. Maybe stone is a bit limited, and even if it wasn't, the towers can actually be quite powerful and do this role instead. On this game, I was playing here as the Japanese against a guy playing as the Jurchen. I was going towards the Imperial Age by adding up here some cav archers, and I knew that this guy was up to something. He had some step lancers that were unupgraded, and he had several ranges. To be honest, I don't really care what is his unit, I just wanted to protect myself. Be it either cav archers or elite skirmishers or whatever, I just started making some towers here to protect my wood lines. So basically, by the addition of these towers, I would probably be able to protect my wood lines. By upgrading my cav archer attack, I would already be upgrading the range for my towers. And of course, there comes Yasama, which will actually boost here how much damage I can actually do using my towers. After you do upgrade Yasama, you can already consider going for the university upgrades here. That's why I even have 2 of them, because there are several upgrades that I want to do that can boost your tower here. The first ones are the guard tower and the keep tower. Guard tower is very cheap for an Imperial Age technology here. It's actually a Castle Age technology, which is not so easy to do on the Castle Age, but once in Imperial Age, 100 food and 250 wood is very affordable. Keep tower, this is very expensive one, to be honest. We are talking about nearly 800 resources, but it's totally worth it to get later. And arrow lists, this one is insane. Basically, it gives watchtowers, guard towers, keeps, and dungeon extra attack. So this scale as you keep upgrading the tower. So arrow list is one of the ones that I would prioritize here, but whenever I'm playing with towers. And of course, you can also boost your towers by going for like masonry, since you can actually increase a bit their HP. So keep guard tower, keep tower, arrow lists, and masonry, of course ballistics in case you do not have, and you're just gonna have one of the strongest weapons here of the game. And there you go, I'm just starting to drop some towers here in front of my resources. I just found an extra stone, and my goal here is to just try to dominate this area, this hill, until I can use the full power of the weapons here. Regarding the weapons, let's talk about the second unique upgrade here from the Japanese, the Kataparuto. Kataparuto is a very expensive upgrade as well, 550 wood, 300 gold. Honestly, quite expensive, but we are talking about more than 800 resources here on Imperial Age. But this allows you, your trebuchets, to, let me read it correctly, to pack, unpack, and shoot faster. So basically, you are just going to have trebuchets that are going to be such annoying weapons for your opponent to deal with. Right here you can see that thanks to Yasama, I already have these 2 signs here on my towers that they just determine that they are actually going to shoot extra arrows. I'm buying towers, I'm buying extra space here, I'm buying time. I just spot that the enemy was trying to play with grenadiers, and I tried to pick up some small fight here using my cav archer extra range, but my true focus here is on getting trebuchets and Yasama towers. This is the composition that you should be looking for as the Japanese. Regarding the army, well, there are many things that you can play as the Japanese. You can go for infantry play, you can go for all kinds kinds of ranged units. You can go for the arbalesters, hand cannoneer, revicav archer. All of your ranged units are pretty good, and you have access to like all the upgrades. All of your infantry units are pretty decent as well. Samurai, halberdiers, champions. The only thing that I would not recommend is the cavalier line here, because you do lack the last armor, making them very bad here for the Japanese. So play with any kind of ranged unit and infantry that you want, but support those with the Asama towers and traps, and you're probably going to have a very solid Japanese composition here. Enemy was even going for a few iron pagodas together with the step lancer. I just pushed him closer to the towers, and the towers kill him for me. By the way, I have yet to finish upgrading the towers, and I'm yet massing here my traps, waiting for a counter push using Kataparuto. I now have guard towers, I'm now upgrading Revicav Archer, so basically just slowing the enemy down, getting the upgrades. Even if I have to lose a few towers in the process, it's totally fine because I am collecting multiple stone here, and as you can see, there are no openings here. There are no villagers that this guy can come here and raid without getting shot by my towers. So this tower just gives you such a defensive potential, but you can always also use this in an offensive way by forwarding with your towers. Of course, in order to do that, my recommendation is that you use it together with Kataparuto trebuchets. As you can see, I'm just shooting multiple projectiles on his traps. He basically didn't even load his traps, and I'm already shooting the third time. It's insanely good. And of course, whenever he comes close to me, the towers just kill him for me. So it's not like I have to care too much. About to get keep tower upgrade, so I'm about to have a very high HP building here. And there he goes, 2475 HP. He just jumps on my army, but well, he's dying. The towers, the castles, they are all killing him. I also have monks on the back of my composition. I think that this is the way to go, guys. If you have like a ranged unit, just have a few monks behind it that you are just gonna be constantly healing up your units. And of course, in a trebuchet war, Kataparut trebuchets are always going to win because they do shoot faster. There are very few trebuchets that can actually try to kill them. I would say that the Briton Warwolf trebuchets can actually kill them, and the Han extra accuracy trebuchet can also compete here. The Tatar extra range, I don't think that's so relevant. And to be honest, try to use your trebuchets from the top of the hill. They are very vulnerable units, so do not play like that. The towers are fully upgraded right now. They actually do shot 3 projectiles, and each one of these projectiles actually deliver a lot of damage here, so it's insanely good. And then I just keep advancing here on key positions of the map, using the Kataparuto trebuchets and using as well the keep towers. Basically gaining access to extra golds, extra stones, and so on, until I can actually deny my opponent from collecting anything. As I said, not only this can be a very good defensive tool, but you can also send a bunch of villagers to start making keep towers forward here to deny your opponent to collect gold, wood, and other resources here. So that's a very interesting thing to do. There comes the opponent, he's gonna try to push me. His army consists of elite skirmishers with 8 pierce armor, and we are also talking about the elite iron pagoda, one of the strongest units here for the Jurchens. It's a 7 pierce armor unit that also blocks melee here, but well, I have no melee units. Anyway, there he comes, and basically what I have to do is protect my trebuchets using my army and monks, and let the towers do their job. As you can see, the Iron Pagoda, despite of their high pierce armor, are under a lot of arrow fire here from both Cav Archers and towers, so they're all going down, and well, the skirmishers are all dying to both trebuchets and towers. So yes, basically this is one of the best Japanese army compositions you can have on Imperial Age. Play with the Asama towers, upgrade your towers, and use Kataparuto trebuchets to keep pushing. Regarding the army, guys, I will be very honest. If I was playing with skirmishers and halbs here, if I was playing with hand cannoneers, if I was playing with champions, I think that any other unit would have accomplished the same thing. The keep gameplay here is keep towers plus trebuchets. So that's how I think that you should be playing with one of the best Japanese weapons here. Of course, not to take the credit from the samurai.